Good morning, everyone. If someone's lurking outside, feel free to take a seat and join our session. We're about to start. My name is Marian Dimitrov, and I'm Director of Research at Fintech Global. It's my great pleasure to welcome you to our dedicated demo stage today and to today's forum. It's great to see everyone in person again, but I also know we have a lot of participants that are joining us virtually, as this is kind of like the new normal until everyone is feeling that they're missing out being in person and they make the next step. So I would like to extend a warm welcome to everyone that's joining us online as well. So before we go into today's agenda, I would like to extend a warm thank you to our sponsors and exhibitors who helped us put the event together, to the financial institutions who are in attendance, both in person and online, and also to the speakers who have agreed to share their insight with us today. As you already know, and it was mentioned earlier this morning, please download the Umbrella app. It's the platform to connect all participants, whether they're joining us at the venue today or virtually from anywhere around the world. You can schedule your meetings, do online video calls straight into the platform, and also chat and keep in touch after the event. And just as a reminder, the access for the Umbrella app will close at the end of the event. So please, if you haven't signed up, create your profile. Otherwise, you won't be able to log into to the event afterwards. So, well, as mentioned, things are changing, and the way modern events are run nowadays is a mix of virtual and in person, where we can accommodate everyone that wants to attend and get access to the content and all the presentations. So today's demo session will also run a little different. Yes, we have plenty of presenters here today who are going to demonstrate on stage, but we also have some speakers who were not able to join us in person and have sent us a demo video. So do connect with them afterwards on the Umbrella platform if you have any questions. I know they're not being present at the venue today. But yeah, do reach out to them on the Umbrella platform. They have a presence there. If you have any further questions, do reach out to them on the app. So we'll start off with presentation from some of our clients, including RedScan, Cynamics, and Viper, which have 10 minutes to present their solutions. And then we move into the demos that were selected to present at the event today. So please, I would just ask you to stick to the time allotted for your demonstration, so we give equal opportunity to everyone. I know we always want to tell more than we kind of like planned for, but that will make sure everyone gets equal opportunity to be heard. And also just jump on stage straight after each presenter is finished. Your logo will just pop on screen, so that'll be your cue to that it's your turn. So with that being said, I would like to hand over to Andrew Beckett from RedScan, who's going to kick off this exciting session. Welcome to stage, Andrew.
Thank you. Thanks very much to Fintech for putting on today's event. I've already reconnected with a colleague I worked with back in 2007, building a SIEM and monitoring platform for the National DNA Database. So it is really good to get back and connect with people in person. So I'm here today to talk about RedScan specifically. They're one of our companies within the Kroll family. We acquired RedScan back in March, and it's been a very successful fit for us, both in terms of approach and culture, but also some of the exciting technology that they're building, creating, and deploying, servicing our clients. You'll see here that the clients think so too. Net Promoter Score of 63 from the customer satisfaction surveys is something that we're really proud of and very excited about in terms of the benefits and the value that we are presenting to our clients. As I say, RedScan's now part of the Kroll portfolio, providing end-to-end support and services. And you can see last year we responded to 2,700, just over 2,700 cyber incident response cases for our clients. A lot of that was ransomware, and that's what I'm going to focus on this morning and how we can help. So you can see that this year to date, or not quite to date, to the end of August, ransomware is still a massive problem. And although the top category there is shown as email compromise, that includes to a large degree email compromise as part of delivering a ransomware attack. So the two go hand in hand together. But this is specifically what we're seeing against financial services sector. There is an awful lot of information in financial services that attackers are after, but also they know that because of the speed of access to data that is required by financial services, because of the money that is going through the City of London, they are a rich target for this type of attack. And we're going to have a quick look at some of the things that we can do to prevent and mitigate from a ransomware attack perspective, and you know, just try and minimize the impact for financial services. There are three major, I guess, attacks in terms of the types of ransomware that we're seeing. Conti, which we'll talk a little bit about, is the biggest. Revil is about the same size, and then Ryuk, slightly smaller. All have been around for a while. None of them are using particularly novel approaches. It's just that the consumer industry is particularly bad about learning lessons and defending against them. A lot of what we see time and again, we were seeing last year and the year before. And some of these, and particularly the deployment engines that are used to get the malware out there, there's nothing new. We should be able to stop this with a little bit of thought, with a little bit of attention to what's going on our networks. And so, you know, we'll look at what it means to do the basics properly. And we can start by looking at how they get in. So I'll come back to the top category, the zero-day exploits, because everybody says, you know, zero-day exploits, therefore, you know, it's not been seen before. How do you expect to defend it? But phishing attacks, you know, more and more companies are beginning to wake up to the impact of phishing and the need to train staff to spot phishing attacks. Internally ourselves, we have to go through mandatory training on this annually, and they run about 4 or 5 tests a year where the internal teams mount phishing attacks, and if you click on them, you get invited to HR for a little bit of re-education. I don't know what happens if you do it twice. Trying not to find out. Attacks via social engineering. I mean, these are standard stuff. User awareness training will help defeat a lot of these. You know, turning your staff from victims to a sensor, to Mark 1 sensors on your network, being able to spot attacks is a great advantage. Zero-day exploitation is a problem. By definition, it's attacks that are, you know, not known about previously, and they tend not to have patches or fixes applied by manufacturers. But doing the basics will prevent a lot of that. So multi-factor authentication will block most of this because, you know, ability to get into your email and compromise your email, ability to move laterally across your networks will be prevented by proper application of multi-factor authentication. Segregating your network appropriately, not having a completely flat network that everybody has access to everything, will limit the ability of the ransomware to spread on your network and therefore the attack. So look at the basics and then make sure they're implemented. As I say, ransomware continues to be a dominant threat in the financial services sector, but it needn't be if we get the basics right. Tools, techniques, procedures, yes, they're evolving, but they're largely the same. It's variations on a theme, and those themes can be stopped by addressing the basics. Detection opportunities are plentiful. Running MDR, using any of the standard detection tooling, having an effective monitoring program and a response program will limit the impact, limit the ability, and allow you to get rid of the ransomware or indeed a live attacker before they can gain a foothold, before they can do some real damage. And depending on what they're doing in terms of the type of malware, before they exfiltrate your critical data and hold it to ransom. So detect early, respond early, minimize the impact. Ensure you have visibility of all of your environments. I did a 1-minute video for an organization in the US recently. I was asked what was my next big thing. And for me, coming out of COVID and COVID lockdowns, it's shadow IT, the amount of business information that people have on their home PCs, on their home memory sticks, where they've been working remotely. How do organizations get it back under their control? How do you handle it as an organization if that is captured and held to ransom? As you know, the CISO community, the security community needs to put their arms around that as a problem and determine how they control that shadow IT. As I've said previously, EDR tools provide the ability to disrupt an attack, to spot it early and move on. And I'm not sure what's happened there with the IT. It's a malware attack of some kind, I'm sure. We've gone out of presentation mode, but well, we can keep going. Yeah, and just a final thought. I think I'm doing all right on my time, but a final thought from me: speed of response is what what helps you to recover, helps you get back to business as usual. I've spoken to a number of insurance companies here today already. Business interruption by things like ransomware attacks is the biggest single call on their funds at the moment. Speed of response, as a result of proper monitoring of your network, limits that, speeds up the investigation, speeds up the removal of the malware, and the ability for you to get back to business as usual, minimizing the business impact and maximizing your ability to support your clients. I'm going to pause there and say any questions, either from the floor or I don't know if we've got the capability to take questions from people who are watching on the live stream. No.
But they can reach out to you on the Brad app.
Okay. I'm happy to take any questions from inside the room. Stunned silence. At which point, thank you very much indeed for your attention.
Waiting or just
No,
starting?
you can start.
Yeah, perfect. So let me just check. Click here. Okay, hello everyone. Good morning. I'm Dr. Aviv Yecheskel, Cynamics co-founder, CTO. So, what is our main challenge today? How to get full network visibility and threat prediction to the entire network without compromises, to the 100% of our network. Now, the network becomes more and more bigger, more data, more endpoints, more traffic, more sites, and all this in a growing, messy mix of architecture between legacy, private clouds, public clouds, hybrid clouds, all together. Now, all the other network-based cybersecurity solutions are based on appliances. Appliances have many other nice names, like probe, sensor, but essentially, they are boxes. Boxes virtually or physically residing inside our network, collecting data and analyzing them. Now, the appliances have many problems. They add risk to our network, as we saw many times last year. They actually increase the attack surface, to the very much backbone of our network. They are intrusive. They are heavy to install, heavy to onboard, heavy to configure and use, many problems. But more than that, with all these problems, essentially, they provide us with a very, very local visibility and detection inside the network, because they are limited to just X gigabyte per second, and the X is very small. Now, no one can get full visibility with appliances. So usually, what we see every day is customer compromises where to put the 1, 2, 3 appliances we can offer. They can offer by their budget, and what will be the majority of the network. And we speak about 70, 80% even of the network, it will be completely blind spot. No appliances, no visibility, no detection, completely open to the bad guys. No more with Cynamics. So Cynamics is the first ever sample-based network detection and response solution. What does it mean? It means that we collect very small network samples from your network, from the gateways in your network, whether they're physical, virtual, cloud, legacy, no matter what. We connect to these gateways using standard sampling protocols that are already built in. We don't install anything, we don't put anything, you don't need to do anything. Really, 1 hour session and you're in. Most of our customers did it by themselves because it's so easy. And the most important thing, no boxes. Forget about boxes. You don't need to ship any box into your network, you don't need to configure anything, and I will show it to you in the demo. Just a few clicks and you're in. So Cynamics is, as I mentioned, the first ever sample-based detection and response solution. And from the small samples, from less than 1%, we infer about the entire network, how your network looks like, behaves, and predicts threats long before they hit. So you don't need to compromise anymore. Where to monitor, where to detect, you get this full coverage for the first time. So get ready to the next generation of network detection and response with Cynamics. Once you just enter the system, enter into Cynamics dashboard, the only thing you need to do is to go into the device management and add your devices, add your main gateways. Usually, the firewall and core switch in your main network site. That's it. 2 devices, 2 onboardings, and you're in. And you get the north-south, east-west coverage with Cynamics. And it's as easy as click on a device, put the name, IP, and sampling rate. For example, Edge Firewall, 10.10.10, 1000 sampling rate. And just choose the brand and model. Okay? Cisco ASA, for example. You click, and you get directly script or guide for what you need to do in order to connect your gateway into Cynamics. This is an example for the script. Copy-paste it, and you're done. That's it. No boxes, no configuration, no spanning, no mirroring, no overhead, no risk, no intrusive. One-time activation, and the samples are getting into Cynamics. And from the samples, Cynamics provide you immediately with what's happening in your network. It looks like this, and like this. That's it. One-time activation, and immediately afterwards, you don't need to wait. No configurations, no tunings. You get, for the first time, your entire network without compromises. What's happening in any real-time moment, threat prediction using our patented several papers also, AI-based threat prediction, and real-time information of your network, top talkers, applications, communications, and whatever you want. Now, in addition to the visibility and threat prediction, we added much more services on top of it. The first one is the asset discovery. So in the hours after your onboarding, after your less than 1 hour onboarding, you get the autonomous discovery of your main network assets by Cynamics. Your cameras, your Wi-Fi, your IoT devices, your DNS, your backup, everything. You see all this without putting anything manually. Cynamics is clustering them together according to the network behavior. Each one getting its own dedicated threat prediction model. So it's essentially like having an appliance, a box in each one of these subnets or groups or assets, but without these boxes. And I like to call it the threat prediction hierarchy. In the gateways, in the assets, in the endpoints. Each one getting its dedicated consideration by Cynamics. And you don't need to cover your entire landscape with different services, different solutions, with more and more different solutions, but all of this using one solution powered by Cynamics. Then, Based on these detections, based on this autonomous discovery, you get best practice custom alerts. Now, don't confuse it with the AI-based threat prediction. It's another layer. This layer is looking for things that should not be doing in your network. For example, communications with unusual countries. Or, for example, RDPing into your NAS, into your file servers, which is something we want to prevent, of course. And many others. Also, created autonomously by Cynamics. You don't need to do anything. But of course, if you want, you can create any custom alert very, very simply about anything in the network. Next thing, the virtual cyber analyst. In this case, we fused into Cynamics the knowledge and wisdom of Cynamics expert cybersecurity analysts. We took the years of their communications and exchanges with customers and fused it into one new capability that is looking for additional layer of unusual behaviors, suspicious communications, malicious things, etc. And everything is coming with a direct root cause analysis right to the spot. No hours of investigation anymore. The usual investigation in Cynamics is few minutes because everything is right there. The suspicious assets, connections, IPs, everything. And if you want, you can actually connect Cynamics with your third-party mitigation tools, like the firewalls or other security posters that you have. The integration is also very easily, as you see, and allows you to provide Cynamics with the ability to send this root cause analysis directly to them in order to mitigate the threat. Now, this feature just saved last week, a financial institute in Oregon, US. We predicted a DDoS attack 1 minute before the firewall was able to detect it. We see it in the logs. Now, this 1 minute, as you know, each such second, and of course 1 minute, means the whole difference between the smooth mitigation done by Cynamics automatically without anyone even being noticed about it to a disaster of 1 minute of a gigantic DDoS attack that could blow their pipe. Next thing, Endpoint Inventory. Another service you get directly out of the box with Cynamics. You can see the entire endpoints, vendors, vendor names, alerts about them, and directly from Cynamics as well as different alerts on unusual endpoints and communications in the network. Finally, you can run queries and reports on the network with unlimited capabilities and filters. So this is how Cynamics Pilot Report looks like. Few weeks, 1 hour onboarding, the day after, autonomous discovery and best practices alerts, and during these few weeks, constantly meaningful detections. In this case, 17 major cybersecurity threats, as well as several custom developed features. So come and try it. Come and try it very easily, very smoothly. Less than 1 hour, you're in. And for the first time, you don't need to compromise anymore where to monitor and where not. And most importantly, no boxes. I'm here if you want any more information and to discuss more. Thank you.
Hi, thank you for attending today virtually or in person. My name's Oliver Patton. I work for a company called Viper. A lot of businesses probably haven't heard of us, but we've very much been in the kind of financial news. We very prevalently come around to the financial services, helping them with security breaches. So a little bit of background about us. So we're part of an organization called J2. You'll probably notice some of the names on there: Speed Test, Spiceworks. A lot of people will use kind of our media side of our business on a regular basis. But we do also have the other side of our business, which is our security side. I work for Viper. We do things like endpoint security, email security, web security, VPNs, things like that. But the solution I'm actually going to talk to you today is we're kind of moving more into the human element. So a lot of businesses are spending a lot of money on things like security awareness training, trying to increase the knowledge among their workforce, trying to get them to kind of be the first level of protection, kind of human firewall, a lot of organizations calling it. But the solution that I'm going to talk about is to prevent people from accidentally sending an email to the wrong person. So misdelivery of email is one of the biggest data breaches for organizations nowadays. I'll put my hand up. I've done it in the past. I've done an autocomplete on an email and clicked on the wrong person. And depends on the data that you're sending. Could be a very big compromise or just an accidental email to maybe a different client. And a lot of the time, people won't actually be aware of it until they get an email back saying, have I accidentally sent this to the wrong person? Was I supposed to get this email? And we actually had it where statistics, 58% of people in a business will actually admit to sending an email to the wrong person, be that internally or externally. So what we've developed is a tool that will notify the user at the point of clicking send on Outlook to notify them of the people they're sending to, highlight those external people in that email so they can make that decision of, yes, I am happy for this to go to them. We can also notify them of sensitive data in there, so whether it includes any maybe business compromised information, project names, titles, PCI information, all of these areas we can notify the user, and it can actually change the habit from, do I need to actually send that data in that email? And it can get them to, even if they maybe should be sending it or could be sending it, and it's fine to those individuals, but getting them to rethink, reducing that risk of that data going externally at that point of sending. There's a lot of consequences to data breaches through this email. It can be short-term, long-term financial costs, reputational damage. So we work with a lot of organizations from kind of your very large ones, 300,000 users strong, all the way down to 50 users. Everyone will have sensitive information that they hold that they don't want going out. So from a bank, it can be, or financial services, we can say that maybe it's account names, numbers, sort codes, personal identifiable information, GDPR side of things. And for those large clients we work with, reputational damage of that going externally can be just as costly as the actual data that's gone externally. So there's a lot of hidden costs in there. I mean, things like insurance premiums going up, things like that can be something that people don't think about. So what we've developed is the SafeSend solution. So what it's actually going to do is, again, as I say, I'll show you a live demo in a little bit, but it's going to detect those anomalies in domains, look at those attachments, and it's all in real time as well. It's not like it has to go externally to another system. Our solution will be installed locally on the person's machine, so we actually have no internet connection on the solution. It doesn't come to Viper's network, so again, it's kind of a security-first solution where you don't have to worry about your data going anywhere externally, as we are going to be looking internal, external emails. And it's very quick to implement. I've done demonstrations before where I've sent them the configuration file, and they've installed it on their machine within a minute of me being on a call with them. And from these large organizations that we work with, just to name a few, they say how quickly, and it just works, this solution. There's no worry about it if the internet goes down on the machine, no worries about if there's no connection to Viper service, because it is locally on that machine, it works instantly. So how can we help your staff do better? So it's giving the responsibility back to the individual. It's not asking a machine to decide whether they should or shouldn't be sending that email to them. Things like templates, is it something that's very similar and the machine puts a low score to it? This is putting the responsibility back onto them. We're prompting them, again, to make sure that they're aware of what they're doing as an individual and training them with the alerts to rethink what they're doing. And it's not just an IT's problem, it is obviously putting the onus onto the individual then, rather than IT and a system. You can come and talk to us about this solution. We do also do security awareness training as well, which links into this solution very much so as well. But I'll show you a quick demonstration on the solution, just show you how quick and easy it is to use. So I'll just pull up my test Outlook here. All I have to do is put an email in, one letter, and we've all had it where for whatever reason it's now come up with somebody different in the organisation. I'll put in my internal one. Just do a test email. And then at the point of sending, what it does is it'll notify me of those external people I'm sending to. And as you'll notice, it's in a different colour. Every time that I add in a different external domain, it will come up in a different colour to notify the user that there's external people, because that's what the solution's doing. It's prompting them that there's an external recipient in there, but also there's multiple. It could be they're sending to one business and they've got another company that has obviously another person with a similar name or something along those lines, or someone they've just been started to contact with has now come up as the first option. So it'll notify them of that. It's completely customizable, so you can change any of the text, have whatever colouring you want on it, have your logo on it, have linked to your own security policies, so you can customize it however you want. We do also have the ability as well, if there is sensitive information, so this is just looking for an exact match, but not only do they then have to tick all the options in terms of the individuals, the attachments, but they also have to confirm that they're happy for that sensitive content that's been found. If it isn't an attachment, it'll tell them the exact attachment it is, how many matches there's been, whether it's in the subject, whether it's in the body of the email. And once they as the individual, confirm that they're happy for that information to go out, again, putting the onus on the individual rather than the business, can they actually then click send. And we can do it on things like regular expressions. We can look for multiple different areas. And if there is that concern that people will be ticking things, you have to type the word confirm again, getting them to reconfirm, yes, I'm happy for this sensitive information to go out. And what they can do as that kind of behavioural changes, they understand it's being monitored, it's being looked at. Actually, do I need to send this information? Do I need that sensitive information in there at all even? And it can actually reduce things that will be hitting external DLP systems, because we're putting the onus on the user. We're not actually stopping them from sending it, but we're getting them to rethink. So what it can do is reduce down those HR cases, maybe reviews by IT departments when something's been stopped by the DLP because there's maybe some sensitive information. And they go back to the individual and they go, oh, it was on an email chain. I haven't read the last 8 emails in there. I was only included in the last one. I didn't know there was sensitive information that shouldn't go out there. So it gets rid of all of those issues that can arise from that. But that is me done. You can come and have a talk to us. We're outside or virtually. I've got some colleagues that you can speak to in the virtual forums. But any questions you've got, yeah, let us know. Thank you very much.
G'day, hello everyone. Nice to see you all. I popped in from San Francisco, so I thought I'd come by and do a quick demo for you all. I'm the CEO and founder of this company, Arcos Labs, and we deal with account security. So stopping bad actors compromising your customers' accounts and getting in and making a ton of money, which is obviously what they like to do. A little bit about Arcos. We're based in San Francisco. We started in Australia. Arcos is a rock settlement in Uluru, the big red rock in Australia. So that's kind of where that comes from. We work with and we're backed by these amazing brands here. So PayPal, we're protecting all the accounts for PayPal, Microsoft, Wells Fargo, and of course SoftBank is one of the largest investment vehicles in the world, helping us conquer the world in account security. So the key philosophy of the Arcos platform is it focuses on what are the attackers going after, as opposed to the attack type itself. So everything attackers do is to make money. They're in this for a salary, to put food on the table, all these sort of things. And a lot of people are very focused on trying to figure out, like, how do we mitigate the attack coming in, and less focused on the fundamental question is, how do we deter them from attacking us? How do we just not make it worth their while in the first place? And that's what we do at Arcos. So the whole product philosophy is, if we can increase the cost and effort to attack you to a certain threshold, they will go somewhere else, attack your competitors, maybe get a real career. So that's the goal here. We have kind of 3 core areas that we work with in the financial services. So account protection, kind of getting into your customer accounts, ton of money there, so it's a good place to go after if you're a criminal. Account enrollment, so signing up for credit cards, getting into a bank account, really for an attacker to make money, they either have to be in a customer account or they have to get their own account to use that for fraudulent purposes. And we can also be used downstream on other touch points of the consumer journey. We're quite unique in that we additionally offer a warranty. One of our primary use cases is credential stuffing, which is where people take advantage of all the reused passwords. How many people here reuse passwords? And if your hand is down, you reuse passwords, I think is the... This is an anti-question. I know you all do. I don't even need to ask. You can believe you don't, but you do. And because of that, bad actors can go and use all the compromised credentials that are already out there. There's literally, I think it's up to 10 billion. If you go to Have I Been Pwned, you can check if you're compromised or not. You probably have been. And they just check those usernames and passwords on your login to see your consumer login. And if your customers have used the same password for the bank account as they have for a social media website or whatever, now they're into your account. And unfortunately, this happens very frequently. So they use automation, scripts, and bots to test credentials at scale, because manually typing in hundreds of thousands of password combinations is probably not going to be the most cost-effective attack. So that's why they're using automation. So that's why we released the warranty on the back of our technology. So if our technology doesn't stop it, we're so convinced that we can do that, that we'll actually fund your losses if not. So the platform is there's 2 kind of primary components to it. The first component is classification of traffic and risk and threat profile. So do we think you're a good user? Wonderful, we'll let you log in. All the way down to you're a malicious threat coming from unusual IP addresses, you're making a lot of requests, there's something strange going on, we're seeing an elevated traffic spike, all those kind of things. At which case, the second component of our approach comes into play, which is our proprietary challenge technology. We have different kinds of challenges depending on the kind of threat you may be. Whether that's automated threats, i.e. credential stuffing, all the way through to like humans opening hundreds of applications to get access to. One great example is we work with a company that has a credit card application flow, and to incentivize people to sign up, they give you a $100 gift card when you're approved on the spot. And what fraudsters do is they go and purchase stolen identity information and just enroll in hundreds of accounts. And as long as the cost of the data and the cost of the labor is less than $100 on average they get when they get in, obviously that's a profitable venture. So our job is to increase that cost of human labor, which is always a fun problem. So we have kind of 3 streams of data. We look at behavior, device, and network. And that's then kind of brought up into our cloud system. We run machine learning on it, all that fun stuff. We look at data across our customers. We're always looking for kind of like uniqueness. Like if you bought 2 iPhones, they're going to have virtually like the same device makeup, same device fingerprint, those kind of things. A synthetic attacker who's making fake accounts and things like that, they like to look unique. They change their resolution, they change their fonts, they change their proxies. And because of this, uniqueness actually becomes a more common element of bad threats versus good users, which is kind of curious. We share a ton of data with our customers. There's over 50 attributes. So when we're classifying traffic, that classifications, we have like this grouping, like is it coming from a botnet? One of the signals here is time zone mismatch. So the IP is coming from a location that differs from the device. That's a signal of a synthetic account. And we're also looking at like, is it a valid device fingerprint? Like this version of iPhone never had this version of screen resolution. So how is that the case? And we give you all the attributes as well. So it's a strong data classification piece as well as our intelligence. This all ultimately comes to the decision of like, okay, we think you're bad, so we want to do something about that. We're not just going to give you the data and let you try and figure it out. We actually actively challenge bad requests in the user experience. When you click login, we think you're a credential stuffing attack. We'll present one of our challenges. These are all proprietary to Arcos. And this is something that is incredibly easy for a good user, effectively 100% pass rate, but the cost of attacking this is actually very high. So this image is a 3D model that we generate in real time, and we want attackers to spend money and time attacking us because then they're not profiting from defunding you. And what we can do is change the mechanics, we can change the type of model, we can change to a different kind of challenge. The objective is to force the attackers to spend money and time dealing with us and therefore not profiting from going after you. There's a very different kind of strategy when it comes to human labor attacks like credit card enrollment scenarios. So we will classify traffic bans, and then, if we think you're a human fraudster that's opening hundreds of accounts, we're going to make your life very miserable. So it's a lot of fun for us. We share all of this data through the APIs, which I showed, as well as customer portals. You can log in and see all the good stuff. There's a bunch of other fun features. We have a truth data API. If we classify something as good, goes on to be bad, you can tell us. The product gets smarter. Next time it catches at the top of the funnel, as opposed to at the end of the funnel where it's committing the fraud. And that's kind of a high level on the product. One more thing. We have this fantastic summit later this year, which has a ton of great merchants speaking about all the kind of fun attacks criminals do. And we would like to welcome you to come join us there as well. And we're around, we have a booth. We have Tim Tams because I'm from Australia, so come get some, and thank you very much.
I get two for the price of one today with regulative. So, Regulative AI. I'm Mark Weston, Janelle Sharp. We are the founders of Regulative AI. We set the company up about 18 months ago to focus on one very specific problem, that is cyber security regulation and the reporting. We partnered with Burlesoft, big Indian brand, to build a platform on AWS. We are through a few proof of value projects and MVP and go-to-market ready. Along the way, we've had a few recognitions, which is very nice. CyberTech 100, AI Fintech 100, Tech Round Top 50, and we participated in the UK government Southeast Asian Fintech Series as well. So that's taken our product to all of the major economies in that region. Don't need to tell you that cybersecurity is a growth business. The losses this year are estimated to be in the region of, well, single-digit trillions. I've seen 2 trillion, I've seen 6 trillion, but it's a lot of money that's at risk. We're all here to help solve those problems. I think governments are obviously getting very interested in this as well. So they're hitting financial services institutions and other regulated businesses, but particularly financial services institutions with a lot of regulation. That takes time to comply with. So the banks are really struggling for time, money, people in a world where COVID's hitting their budgets and there's a global shortage of people to do the cybersecurity work. So our aim is to help businesses with that, to streamline and automate those processes so it's not taking hundreds or thousands of hours, but actually taking a fraction of that, to free up valuable resources in order to deal with the actual defence priorities. So once we've got that data set in place, by doing this work, we can then use that for other use cases, so cybersecurity assurance and client audits, third-party risk assessments. I know BP, for example, have about 110,000 suppliers, 6,000 criticals, so banks are in the same position. So there's an enormous amount of work that goes into that. Once we've got that data set in place, we can also then use that data for internal governance, and we can use it for cybersecurity insurance, so the optimization and pricing of that. So multiple use cases. Let's hand you over to John.
Thanks, Mark. I guess in terms of how the platform works, I'll just go through a couple of slides, key features of the platform. So we are a cloud-based platform. We're multi-cloud, so we can deploy this into your private clouds to offer you a SaaS solution. We can even deploy it on-prem if you want that to be a choice of yours. It is machine learning based. We use natural language processing where we require across the platform. Elements of the platform do use traditional rules programming, but also we have, as I said, machine learning built in. It is a secure platform. Obviously, we have to be, given the data we're going to capture within the platform. As mentioned earlier, and many times as well earlier today, we are MFA enabled and we are based on roles-based access. So we allow access from InfoSec teams, CISO teams, vendor teams, external audit, internal audit, so all the stakeholders required to access the process to automate. We have data governance utilities built in, so we can provide with data lineage, data quality, data cataloging of all your key data assets. We are built on microservices architecture, as you would expect, as a model digital platform. And we are API enabled to collect your data, to enable you to automate those processes, which currently take up, as we say, hundreds of hours of your resources. And we've designed the platform to be easy to use based on the stakeholders. So we're trying to make their journey easier. We're not trying to introduce more reporting or more steps. We're trying to simplify that process for them. And these are the key features of the platform. There are many, many other features we can go through as well. In terms of benefits, based on our analysis and some of the work we do with some of our customers, we can save anything between 40 to 70, in some cases even more, of efficiency within your current process. So we can start to help you take away your current resources and put them onto more proactive activities from a cyber perspective. And with the use of automation, we can help, as I said, automate the process, help you transform the way your current processes are working to a much more efficient side. It is scalable, which means that you focus on all the risks you have, regulatory risks, rather than the ones you want to focus on the key markets. So it enables you to cover all of your cyber risks and all of your regulatory commitments. And in terms of collaboration, it will help you collaborate better between yourself and your teams internally to collect the data you need to enable this workflow to work. So we've got a quick demo to go through, so hopefully this will work. If I can play that, here we go. Great, thank you. Thank you for your time.
So hi everyone, my name is David Bennett from Softcat. I'm here with my colleague Anthony from Trend. I'm going to go straight into this. So we actually spoke at the keynote last year. We talked about API integration, and Softcat are a solution provider that help you guys navigate the ecosystem of security vendors that you have and build a secure platform. And we've invited one of our partners today to talk about how we can help you on your journey to cloud. We did some market research, which is what this slide is talking about, just to try and understand how financial services organizations are taking that move to that digital journey and supporting the cloud. A couple of things that I wanted to pick out here, and actually if I get a chance to talk to any of you guys today, I'd love to get your feedback on this and how accurate this is and if it resonates with you. We've talked a lot today about people and legacy IT and compliance being a challenge to innovate in cybersecurity, and I spoke to an enterprise architect this week, and one of the things that they told me was they are a catalyst for transformation, but actually getting through the compliance and regulation in their business and also taking staff through that transformation journey with old skills is actually really, really tough. Some of the things that challenge innovation, trust and compliance, profitability. Someone said earlier in the keynote, you can't just keep adding heads. It's not going to solve the problem. And where organisations in FinServ are trying to get to, and we've used an example of a traditional bank, but I think it resonates with capital markets as well, is we're trying to get to a cloud-first, mobile-first technology point. We're starting to see even big banks like UBS, Citibank, create born-in-the-cloud technologies to compete with the challenger banks that are less regulated, originally born in the cloud, and they can innovate a lot quicker. And so the challenge that we're trying to help organisations with, whether it's capital markets or a big retail bank, is how can you develop quickly, how can you become born in the cloud, how can you use some of that DevSecOps type technology that was talked about by Simon at Sneak, who we're a partner for. And what we'd like to do today, just to try and add some value, is we've presented an offer for an ebook just to help any organisations that are trying to move to the cloud and trying to do that securely, trying to create that digital journey. We've just created something with our partners Trend, which we're launching to help you guys do that. So Anthony's going to explain what that is, and we've got a really, really quick video. And then if you'd like to get access to that, come and talk to Anthony or myself.
Cheers. Right. Hopefully this works. Right, so this is a bit novel, isn't it, in presenting in front of people again. So why have we got a slide about cloud maturity? So cloud can go a long way in addressing some of the challenges that David talked about earlier. But it's not enough to just be in the cloud. You've got to be mature in the cloud. Digital transition and transformation is vital. And moving from left to right in the graph. So Trend can help accelerate that journey by setting guardrails, allowing you to automate your security, and get your app dev teams to become DevOps and move to CI/CD pipeline, become more agile. We automate and simplify your security posture rather than make it complicated. And we're going to show you a video now, hopefully, which talks about more eloquently than I can. Or not.
One more, is it?
There you go.
Every customer tells us that they have too many tools. This is the first problem that they want to solve. Why would one buy a point product to protect just containers or just serverless or just workloads or just the network? For us, this should simply be a collection of integrated security services from a single solution that spans code pipelines and operations at scale. Cloud One, a hybrid cloud security services platform used to secure cloud-native applications leveraging serverless and containers, cloud workloads, cloud networking, cloud file storage, and continuous assurance that all of your cloud infrastructure has been configured and deployed securely across AWS, Azure, and Google Cloud Platform. Protecting any application regardless of its vintage or application architecture. With each service continuously releasing independently from one another as frequently as they want, all pulled together in a single solution, providing alignment around pricing, support, documentation, and all those goodies. We have evolved with our customers. All the answers have been in our customer conversations for many, many years, and they have shared all of their challenges along this journey. We now have continuous assurance across many, many cloud services across multiple cloud providers. Cloud One, one solution, one experience. Don't make me buy 5 or 6 point products anymore.
So we have an ebook and a guide to talk you through what that product can do, but also just some advice around moving to cloud and securing yourself. So come and find us. Thank you, guys.
Cheers, thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Fabian. I'm COO and co-founder of Keyless, and I'd like to thank you very much for having us virtually at today's CyberTech Forum. In the next few minutes, I'd like to introduce Keyless and our next generation privacy-preserving biometric authentication technology that will revolutionize consumer authentication. We're a deep tech identity company pioneering privacy-preserving biometrics for passwordless authentication, and in particular, strong customer authentication for consumers that is based on a unique combination of cryptography and modern biometrics that allow us to strongly authenticate and identify the genuine user across any device with a simple look in the front-facing camera. All of this without processing nor storing biometric information, which doesn't make it only compliant to privacy regulations, such as the GDPR, but in fact far exceed these requirements. There's no personal identifiable information involved. What we do in practice is that we transform a user's biometric input when you look into the camera into a cryptographic key that can be used for a one-time operation. So you could access an application or service without any passwords, you can sign documents, or you can authorize payments in a PSD2 compliant way with a simple look in the camera, completely agnostic to the underlying device, no matter what hardware manufacturer or operating system that device is running on. Further, we don't store any sensitive information on these devices. No biometric data, no any personal secrets or passwords, but we also don't store them in any central location. What we do is that we take a user's biometric input when you look into the camera, we split it in pieces, we irreversibly encrypt these pieces, and this transformation happens on the user's device. What leaves the device is completely opaque, irreversibly encrypted pieces of information that cannot be reconstructed to a picture ever again. And in the encrypted domain, we're matching these encrypted pieces against each other on a distributed cloud architecture, whereby the result of this computation is not just a yes or no, but the reconstruction of the user's private key that can be used once. With one simple look, we verify the device that the user is using as a factor of possession. This can be any device, such as an iPhone 6 without Face ID, an Android device from Samsung, Huawei, or a Windows workstation. The user's face as a physical biometric factor, but we also ensure the liveness of the user, so you couldn't use a video or a selfie. And we're working on behavioral biometrics, so how users interact with their devices as an added layer of security in addition to the facial input. Now I'd like to focus your attention on our consumer solution space, and in particular, our SDK that is embedded in consumer-facing applications, so banks can strongly authenticate and identify their end users across all touch points in a PSD2 and compliant and strong way. We further allow for digital onboarding and identity proving in an end-to-end integrated flow so that subsequent authentications match against that same template. And it's not just a strong authentication, but actually an identification of the user on an ongoing payment basis and a seamless payments experience. We further allow for additional use cases such as electronic signatures with a simple look in the camera of the end user devices. But to make it more tangible, I'd like to show a video of how that solution looks like in practice. Unlike today, when users copy-paste PIN codes from an SMS or an email, which is very insecure, I have to switch to a second token, a soft token, to authorize payments and fulfill the strong customer authentication requirements for multi-factor authentication under PSD2. With Keyless, the user simply remains in the app, presents the face, we verify the device independent of the user's biometrics. We perform the dynamic link or sign that transaction so it's auditable, which is cryptographically secured, and that payment is done. It looks and feels the same across all touch points and all devices, no matter what vendor, what operating system or platform the device is running on. With that, there's nothing users need to remember. There's no secret, no password, no PIN that needs to be copy-pasted. There's nothing that can be phished. If a user loses that device, you could simply revoke that device and use another device that is linked to the account, or recover one's identity and perform that authentication and recovery process against the same identity or that biometric template that has been used at the initial enrollment. We call this enroll once, use anywhere. We comply to the stricter privacy regulations, such as the GDPR, and in fact far exceed these, and comply with the PSD2 strong customer authentication requirements, all with just one look in the camera. And we offer our SDK across all platforms, iOS, Android, Windows, React Native, and further bindings, and can prove rapid deployment and fast time to value with a large customer base. With that, I thank you very much for your attention. We look forward to the discussions and wish you a wonderful day ahead. Thank you very much.
Hello. My name is Buddy Blair. I'm a solutions architect within Veil. I'm the only one that can make it here today, so you're kind of stuck with me doing this presentation, even though I'm fairly new to the company. So Veil is a pioneering data security company, enabling the protection of data in use. So this is a new area of capabilities, is providing the secure collaboration, search, and analytics run on data sets that are in an untrusted or external environment. So privacy-enhancing technologies enable us to bring this technology to the commercial market in a real and meaningful way. It's estimated there, you can see 50% of organizations will adopt these kind of privacy-enhancing technologies by 2025. So our history started in the government space in the US, so a lot of three-letter organizations that would be familiar to you. So that's the birth of the technology, and that's where a lot of our customers currently sit. But we're seeing more and more application in the commercial space, specifically in financial services, for this types of technology to enable that secure collaboration. And again, being able to encrypt the machine learning model or an analytics model or a search and send that somewhere else where it can act on a data set without ever being decrypted. So everything remains protected throughout the life cycle. So a couple of examples just to bring this to life is, we have some examples here we've done with a global bank where it comes to either privacy jurisdictions, so different divisions of a bank being able to make requests into a data set where you don't want to expose the content of your search. So during things like onboarding, fraud detection, being able to search another data source without revealing the content of your search is really what it's about. So this started with cross-jurisdictional barriers, but we're also seeing applications between organizations. So detecting fraud between banks without revealing the content of your suspicions or the content of what you're searching for, being able to do that across financial services organizations really helps to enable that collaboration that we heard a lot about this morning. So being able to collaborate without actually revealing sensitive or private content within the target of your investigation. So to give you an idea, the Enveil solution is a business enabling product. So we are usually embedded within a data lake or data resource of some sort, or maybe a workflow process or another application. So what the users see is probably going to be transparent to them, but we can facilitate this idea of a privacy jurisdiction, being able to make a search, so during onboarding or one of those activities, encrypt that search, run it against a data source in another location, not moving the data and not revealing the content of your search, but being able to give meeting results back to the requesting party. Again, all based on the arrangement being agreed by both parties. So you can see some of these examples that we worked on with this particular organization was a global watch list. So being able to check a watch list without revealing the content of who you're searching for, or having to distribute that watch list globally so that all the different parties would have a copy. It's really important in onboarding for those obvious reasons. And there's also a lot of application in transaction monitoring. So being able to check a data source without revealing what you're searching for, but that data source has agreed to share certain parts of their data for the prevention of financial crime. key takeaways was being able to do this at scale. So homomorphic encryption is a technology that underlies what we're doing here. It's only recent developments in that being scalable up to a commercial case. So being able to search across millions or billions of records using homomorphic encryption was an important part of the technology innovations that Unveil provides. And then also importantly is that data owners don't have to move or compromise or share their data specifically. They're just able to expose portions of that data that are going to be useful to that particular business function. And the receiving party gets an answer without the data owner ever knowing what the content of the search was or the results of that search. So it's not encrypted until it goes back into that secure environment where the request originally originated. And so again, the long-term vision here is to support both in the government sector, which is still an important part of our business, but also in the commercial sector, this secure collaboration while maintaining privacy, security, confidentiality with any of the data assets. So as you can see, if you would like to learn more, or there's videos and other sort of demonstration content available on the Unveil website. Thank you. Jesus.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, I'm here to talk about Sneak. I'm Paul Harland, a solutions architect, and I've been working at Sneak for around 2 years now. As you may have heard already today, Sneak is a developer tool that helps developers develop fast while staying secure. Well, what does that mean? If we look at what developers do at the moment compared to what they used to do 10 years ago, you'll see that that job role has significantly changed. You may have seen this slide before. On the left, I like to think of this as the cathedral approach. So that's developers writing their applications, introducing open source code, and then maybe once a quarter, once a half, kind of giving an offering to the IT team who control this infrastructure very tightly. So they'll make that offering, and the security team will say, first of all, we need to run penetration tests, we need to make sure it's compliant, and we need to make sure there's no vulnerabilities. And once a quarter, they'll go through that ritual, and then it will go live, and then they'll start working on that next release. Whereas now, in the cloud era, we're more into what is a bazaar rather than a cathedral. So lots of people all contributing to code, but not just the code of the app, the open source that's in that application as well, and the containers, the infrastructure as code. And these are all coming from disparate teams, all eventually making it to the release. But the release is no longer once a quarter or once a half. It could be once a week, it could be twice a day. So actually waiting for security team to run penetration tests, to run compliance tests on these releases would slow that down. And that would mean you as a business are not effective in being able to release these new features to the market. So what do developers need then? They need a tool, I think you heard the same message from Trend Micro before, that can look at all of the components of the application at scale, where the developers work, meeting them in the tools that they use every day in order to make sure that this thing, this application, along with the containers and infrastructure as code, is secure throughout that whole process. And Sneak's here to help with all of those different layers of the application. So at the top, we're talking about the code that the developers write. We've got a SaaS tool that can help look for vulnerabilities and help with remediation there. In the open source, we can look at what open source is included in the application, and we can give you an idea about how to fix that by including different or updated versions of that open source. In the containers, again, we're looking at the Docker files or the container images. What have you got in there that's vulnerable, and how can we fix that? And then down at the bottom, the infrastructure as code. This is your Terraform, your cloud formation scripts, your Helm charts. We're looking at them as well. Because developers, typically they'd spend 90% of their time up there. They know that very well. That's their code, that's their day job. When they get to down here, they may have containers that have been around for 6 months, 1 year. They may have to make small changes to each of these, so it's not their primary concern. They need a tool that can help them understand if they've introduced vulnerabilities or if new vulnerabilities have been found even without any changes. And we do this, as I say, throughout the whole DevOps lifecycle. So when developers are first cutting their code, we've got plugins and we've got tools that can help them understand what's there. As they then go and commit this to a Git repository, again, we've got integrations. We can not just check for vulnerabilities, but we can also check the delta. So what has changed? Has that changed, added any new vulnerabilities as well? Which is a very important question when you're looking at pulling in existing applications. The first port of call might be, let's stop new vulnerabilities going in before we attack the old vulnerabilities. All depends on how you want to implement Snyk, first of all. Then we're talking about CI/CD platform. We want to make sure that nothing vulnerable goes to live. So we can have stop checks in there that stop vulnerable applications going live, or we can let them through but just create reports and fix it in the future. Again, up to the customer how to do it. And then over into those live clusters as well, we've got integrations into serverless, Kubernetes, that can give you that live information. After all, just because you've put an app live with no vulnerabilities, doesn't mean that you're not going to find new vulnerabilities the next day. Right, how many developers do we have in this audience? Okay. I'm going to do a little demo. I'll keep it quite high level. Imagine the life of a developer using Snyk. I'll keep it very high level, in fact. Okay, I'm not even turning my mouse on. Right, so Snyk platform is here, a little washed out with colour, but you get the idea. What we're on at the moment is the integrations page, and you can see here all of the different integrations that developers use. You may recognise some of these logos. A developer will recognise a huge portion of them. Let's take one that's quite easy, GitHub. So if I've integrated with GitHub and I want to scan one of my projects before I send it live, very easy. I'll click on the icon and get back a list of all the projects that I'm currently working on. Here's one called Goof, and I'm going to scan that now. So if I click on Add this repository, we're going to do the scan live. It's only going to take a couple of minutes, and I can keep talking for that long anyway. If I go back to this deck, we're looking for all those 4 layers in that one simple scan. When we get that back, we're going to have a number of reports which relate to each of those different layers. So if I open up that scan now, you'll see that one scan has found 6 different reports. Okay? Let me refresh that to show that it's actually been done now, or you won't believe me, will you? A few seconds ago, see, there we go. So we've got the code analysis. That's the code that the developer writes. We've scanned it. We've got the package.jsons. This is just a way to represent the open source code. We've then got the Docker file, that's the container, and then these 2 here are the infrastructure as code. So me as a developer now understands everything to do with that app and where the vulnerabilities are being creeped in. First things though is the code that I've written. I want to have a quick look at that. So I'll open up that report. What the developer gets here is not a big list of unactionable vulnerabilities. We have organized the vulnerabilities here on the right-hand side by the Snyk priority score. So the developer's got their next best action right at the top of the report. I need to fix this first because it's high severity, it's got a 908 score, and if I go into the full details, Snyk even gives you a step through of the vulnerability using the taint flow analysis, as it's called, on the left. And on the right-hand side, how do I fix this? With some education piece on the left about what type of vulnerability is and how it affects your code. And on the right-hand side, really interestingly, we've picked some open source projects who have had this problem in the past and then gone and fixed it. So I can go into these commits on GitHub and actually see how someone else has fixed that same problem. This is really powerful because it's not just showing the developers where the vulnerabilities are, it's helping them fix them as well. Okay, last report I'm going to go into because I know I'm short on time. If I want to then go into the open source, so this is the next stage down in that iceberg. Again, you'll see a report that's all around actionability. The top item, which is critical, has a score of 899, is the first thing I as a developer need to fix. I can look at the more details and see, okay, I'm including 047 into this. But if I update to 0411, I'll fix it. All that means is let's get a later version where someone's fixed it already for me. And if I click on fix this vulnerability, what we're going to do is open a pull request straight into the repository and fix that vulnerability. And I can go down and do that for all of my code. In a sense, I would do this with all of those different layers of the application and make sure that before it goes to the CI/CD, I've fixed as many as I can. We can then have different rules in that CI/CD to say no critical or high should go live, or no medium or low should go live. And that's all to do with how we work with you when we're running pilots to understand how to implement Sneak the best. Okay, so that's it for the demo today. We're over on the stand one on the left-hand side. If you like, come and have a conversation with us and possibly understand how to run a pilot, give us a shout. Thank you.
Hello, my name's Charlie Pritchard. I'm a member of the financial services team at Cloudflare. Today we're going to be touching on a particular part of our solution, but before we jump into that demo, I thought I'd give sort of a brief overview of what we do in the market and where we're really finding it quite exciting working with fintech and financial services companies. Cloudflare has the largest globally distributed network on the planet. Over 290 data centers globally, and at the moment, 20% of the world's internet goes through our network. What that translates to is around 20% of the world's threats are identified by us first. What that means is we're able to inform our customers of those threats in real time so they stay protected. So we serve application services, network services, and user services anywhere at any time from any one of our data centers globally. Today we're going to focus on Zero Trust networking, because we find that is the most exciting part of the conversations with fintech organizations. So if we may, go to the next slide. And it should turn into a video shortly.
In this demo of Cloudflare for Teams, we're going to contrast traditional methods of network and application access with Zero Trust controls available to users in Cloudflare. We'll begin with a classic web access scenario for a self-hosted application like Jira. Then, we'll show how our Warp Gateway client can manage access to a private IP range. Finally, we'll see how our platform can seamlessly manage access to non-web applications with browser-based SSH. Let's hop in. I've onboarded multiple applications with outbound tunnels to Cloudflare's edge. Once I put my resources behind Cloudflare, it'll apply strong, consistent authentication methods to all types of SaaS and legacy applications with Zero Trust rules. Once I've selected my preferred IDP and federated the appropriate user groups, I can enforce device security posture like country of origin, source IP, the use of a gateway client, and even the use of an endpoint security solution on the device. When users remotely authenticate to on-site resources, the go-to solution has usually been a VPN, which I've configured here on the left. Let's identify where this kind of solution falls short so we can show how Cloudflare improves on it on the right. Inside the legacy setup, this user is going to access a self-hosted Jira application by first authenticating through an OpenVPN client. Instead of authenticating to the resource itself, this user is getting access to a network, which represents a significant security issue if it's improperly configured. Once I log in, I select my Jira bookmark, which takes me to the home page. However, I'm going to start poking around in my network, and I'm going to see what's available to my device. I'm running a port scanner across the subnet that I authenticated to, and I'm seeing some interesting results here besides Jira, namely the firewall that controls my VPN access. This kind of lateral movement is common in legacy solutions, and you might not want users poking around resources they shouldn't have access to, especially not this firewall I'm about to log into. While inside, I want to point out another security vulnerability. I've had to configure a rule to enable the OpenVPN port through my network. And generally, the fewer holes I have in my firewall, the better. Now that we've laid out some clear issues with legacy VPN solutions, let's switch over to my native device and see how Cloudflare does it. As I showed you earlier, I'm also managing a self-hosted Jira application on Cloudflare. Rather than use a VPN client, I've configured a Cloudflare tunnel on the back end which enables my users to remotely authenticate to this privately hosted resource and only this resource from a URL. The security posture elements also come into effect now. One of the requirements here is that my device have an active Warp client. And we can see I'm denied access until I enable it. Another benefit of Cloudflare managing my self-hosted Jira is that I don't need to enable any firewall policies to permit user traffic. Everything's handled on Cloudflare's side. And now that I'm inside a Jira, we can see that when I run a port scan against the URL, I'm only provided the ports that the Cloudflare tunnel has opened on its end. Anything specific to the resource remains invisible to anyone on the outside. Another way to manage access to this service is by using Cloudflare to route traffic to a private IP, like a VPN. Cloudflare leverages its massive global network and resilient gateway design to provide users a zero-trust environment within private IP ranges in a way that preserves the user experience. Let's take a look at how this works. Back inside the admin console, we can see that by default, Cloudflare excludes most private IP ranges from Warp and split tunnels it instead. By removing certain IP ranges from this list, we force that traffic to be routed through Cloudflare. In addition, our network tab helps us apply identity-based firewall rules for this traffic, letting us maintain the same level of security without sacrificing convenience. Back in the legacy environment, I previously accessed Jira through its bookmarked IP address over OpenVPN. I'm showing here that I've disabled OpenVPN, and I have no access to Jira now that it's turned off. Now I'm going to activate the Warp client, and we'll see I have the exact same access I had before, but without any clunky login process getting in the way. In addition, the firewall that I could access before over OpenVPN is now unavailable to me, an end user. By using Cloudflare's Zero Trust platform to manage my application, I've made my user experience faster, more secure, and more reliable. Cloudflare Warp can also manage access to private IPs in the context of non-web applications. Here, in a different device, I'm going to use Cloudflare Warp to enable me to use remote desktop protocol on a device that needs to be tightly controlled. I attempt to access it with Warp disabled, and predictably, I can't get to it. When I enable Warp and try again, Cloudflare routes me to the host, and I have access to the system. Cloudflare also enables users to render an SSH client in a browser. This is a huge step forward for Zero Trust implementations, which usually have a hard time applying the same access protections that are available for web apps like Jira. It's as simple as establishing a Cloudflare tunnel on a resource you want to manage, and then enabling browser rendering in the settings. Remote SSH access in a production environment requires a carefully managed set of rules and hardware on both ends. But with Cloudflare, I can render the SSH client in a browser like it's a native web application. As I log in, we can see on the left that it has similar access requirements to our self-hosted Jira. My client is on, and I need to have a specific endpoint protection client enabled on my device. I also want to point out that I've configured this device posture setting for CrowdStrike in a way that prevents bad actors from circumventing it by just creating a bogus extension, as you can see with the hash value at the bottom. One thing this application requires, however, is a hard key, which this account has not enabled yet. Despite otherwise meeting the criteria, Cloudflare denies my access. I'm going to log in as another user who has configured their hard key. Once we're through Cloudflare access, we need to authenticate into the device itself. And when we're done with that, Cloudflare renders the SSH terminal in the browser. Cloudflare for Teams has an exceptional reach in the context of onboarding applications into a zero-trust environment, and it enables users to replace their existing VPN client with a solution that also provides all the benefits of using Cloudflare. Thanks for watching.
Cool. Thank you very much.
Hi everyone, welcome. My name is Robin Lee, and I'm the head of APAC for Napier Technologies. I'm actually covering for a colleague today, So just bear with me as we go through this product. Okay, so today there is a lot of bad going around the world, okay? And we can put these down to crimes, whether that's drug trafficking, assassinations, human trafficking, or terrorism. Okay, now there's a reason why the first three are in black and the terrorism is another color. I'll run through that shortly after, okay? More recently, though, there have been some newer, what we call green crimes that have emerged, okay? And these include cybersecurity, cybercrime rather, sorry, wildlife trafficking, fishery crime, and logging crime, okay? Now, the one thing that intersects all of these crimes is money, okay? And the reason why I highlighted terrorism separately is I wanted to come up with two definitions here: money laundering and terrorist financing, okay? So money laundering, to put it simply, is taking money that has been generated from doing dirty stuff and making it clean. And terrorism, you can almost think of it as the opposite, right? Taking clean money and using it to do dirty stuff, okay? So who is responsible for addressing this? We have a numerous amount of different institutions, organizations, et cetera, and that's everything from the public sector, like your law enforcement, regulators, etc., but also the private sector, and specifically what I'm referring to here are financial institutions. Okay, so the challenges that everyone has right now, okay? We're seeing approximately $1.5 trillion every year being paid by businesses and individuals in bribes each year. We're also seeing about $1.1 trillion of illicit funds flowing from developing countries to developed countries every year. We're still seeing about 40 million human, like modern-day slaves in the world that we live in today. And the challenging effect here is that only less than 1% of that laundered money is getting captured right now. Okay, it's being stopped or confiscated. And this is an interesting one here, more from an ethical, moral perspective. 2/3 of millennials only want to work for an organization that has a positive impact on the world. The one element that I have not included here is the fact that since 2018, the financial institution has paid out roughly just under $350 billion in fines. Okay, so what are they doing about it? They're using technology to try and help capture some of this dirty money. Okay, but the existing solutions in the market come with a variety of challenges. That includes this concept of false positives, like receiving results that shouldn't be received, okay? False negatives, not being able to capture results that should have been received. When I say limited here, what I mean by that is that most systems out there, they're hard-coded, they're written in really, really old-school technology, really, really old-school programming languages, they're on-prem, they don't accommodate for the newer stuff like cloud, et cetera, et cetera. They're often disparate as well. So one vendor might make your transaction monitoring solution, for example. Another vendor might make your screening solution. And so getting all these systems to talk to each other can be extremely challenging as a result. Okay? So when you take all these four matters into account here, it can also get really, really expensive as well. Okay? But most importantly, to us here at Napier, if you're only making like a little bit here, a little bit there, how are you expected to understand your customers if you're not with them through that whole journey? So what we've done is we've put together a platform. So you can almost think of this platform as like your phone, right? Where you have this platform and you have different apps that sit on that platform. And we have your regular run-of-the-mill apps like your transaction monitoring, your transaction screening, client screening that you see in the market today. We also have some risk-based scorecard, which is the ability to risk assess your customers, as well as the STR builder, which is what we call suspicious transactions report. So when you want to file a report to the regulator, we automate that process for our customers. Okay? But the really cool thing about our platform is that it's not just a software platform, it's a data platform as well. And so we're not only taking in data from the apps that you see here, but we have the ability to connect to almost any system out there using any known methodology that's around today. And what I mean by that is everything from your newer school kind of connection methodologies like an API to somewhere mid-view like uploading flat files, even the really, really old school systems like FTP or SFTP, we can connect to those old COBOL banking systems that were written in the 60s and pull the data into this platform. And so what this means for the compliance team is that for the first time, they get their own data set. And this is unprecedented because from the surveys that we've seen, someone mentioned to me about 15 years ago that the head of compliance is going to need a PhD in data, the head of compliance is going to need a PhD in data science and artificial intelligence. And so we enable that by giving the compliance team their own data set right here, okay? And so as a result, we not only have the ability to have an artificial intelligence and machine learning to provide insights that a human might not necessarily pick up, but we also have this other app called Client Activity Review. And what that does is it pulls in all the information for a single entity, whether that's Robin Lee, for example, from the transaction monitoring system, the client screening system, or any of those external systems that I previously mentioned, and enable the system to do what we call a Client 360 review. I've got everything on Robin Lee pulled in from all these systems in that report, and I'm ready to present that report to the regulator as a result of that, okay? So, by having this platform view, I've already spoken to some of the key business objectives here, which is that single view of client. Operation efficiency, so what I just mentioned about client activity review, for example, that could often take 12 hours for a financial institution to go to all these different systems and pull all those different bits of information on Robin Lee. With us, that could be done almost instantaneously, okay? Regulatory compliance. So the great thing about Napier is that our founders have been the customer, they have been compliance officers, and so as a result, understand what is required and have designed the system accordingly. But then we see some enablers and some business impacts here. So I'm just gonna call on a couple of these. So the first one is those AI insights that I mentioned that a human might not necessarily be able to pick up. The fact that we have this sandbox environment where we can take copies of the data sets, put them into a sandbox, test out rules, AI algorithms, et cetera, see the results, and then when we're happy with those results, press a button, and then it goes back into production. And last but not least, this whole concept of cost, okay, and being able to save our customers money, which unfortunately, compliance is often viewed as, I'm sure we've all heard it before in the financial industry, right? A business blocker, a cost center, et cetera, et cetera. So we're able to not only reduce those costs, but the last one that I will highlight here under business impact is because of the AI insights, generate some potential leads. We might find out something about Robin Lee that we might not necessarily have identified before, and so be able to identify a business opportunity as a result of that. Okay, I think my 5 minutes is up. Thank you very much for having me, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you. Oh, sorry, one more thing I forgot to mention is if you need to contact anyone, my colleague Barling's QR code is there. Thank you. Sorry.
Good afternoon. My name's Stuart Cook. I'm one of the solutions engineers here at Ironnet. For those who aren't familiar with Ironnet, we are a NDR platform that uses behavioral analytics to help our customers to detect and stop threats early on in the attack phase, and also giving the ability to share that attack intelligence across industry sectors, supply chains, or other groupings, and able to correlate those behaviors across other networks.
Welcome to Ironnet's Detection Correlation Dashboard. The visualization you're seeing before you is your enterprise surrounded with malicious and suspicious notifications that have been shared with your enterprise and security team through the use of the Iron Dome platform. Now, when we take a look at one of these notifications, we can see the alert type, the rating, the correlation context, and any comments that are shared about that threat. We could also pivot to the specific alert and event straight from this dashboard. Now, this view is exactly or very similar to what we showed in our original Iron Dome dashboard concept. You can see the suspicious activity, the malicious activity, and the high-risk activity, along with those additional details here. What this new dashboard allows us to do is to view more than just our siloed sector, and it gives us increased visibility into the threat intelligence being shared across sectors, across enterprises, and across the nation as a whole. So let's take two other visualizations into account. This specific visualization is your enterprise and the oil and gas sector. We can see here that there's threat intelligence being shared on the right and threat intelligence being shared by your security team on the left. Now, with these malicious notifications occur, threat intelligence is pushed across the entire dome. But with this visualization, we're now able to see when those specific threats actually hit your enterprise and the oil and gas sector. This is how you can reduce the impact of an attack. If it's hit the oil and gas sector already, the threat intelligence is pushed to the dome, and if it affects your enterprise, you're immediately notified, or that traffic and notification has already been ingested into your SIM or SOAR, and you can action upon it from there. Last but not least, we'd like to show you one more visualization. You can see here that there's a number of different sectors selected, from finance to oil and gas to your specific enterprise. Now, what's being shown here is a phishing campaign evolving over time. They're not all the same phishing campaign, but we can see phishing activity spike. Now, as that phishing activity spikes, what actually occurs is mid-March, a significant amount of C2 infrastructure appeared and started exfilling data out of organizations from phishing campaigns. This gives us increased visibility into the threat landscape that has never been possible before the detection correlation dashboard. This is Ironnet, and this is Collective Defense Visualized.
Obviously, we're out on the floor, so if you want to come and have a chat, I'm also available virtually online if you want more information about the solution. Thank you.
Hi guys. There's some people in the room still here. That's great. Oh, they're leaving now. Okay. All right. So my name is Boris Gontrov. I'm from Amatas. Amatas is a managed security service provider. And because our product is not actually a product, or you can call this a product, it's actually brain with all the neural links inside of it. So this is what we sell, knowledge and expertise. Because we believe that products has to be complemented with the human intelligence, not that much with the artificial yet. So our mission is to help companies basically with cybersecurity, because we understand that this is a complex topic to get into, and to make sure that whatever a company is doing, it has to focus on their business, not on cybersecurity that much, because it's too complicated sometimes, especially with all these complex technologies that we use. These are some of our customers. We work with large banks. We work also with the Fintech industry and some interesting, exciting companies in the crypto world, because it is something that we believe it's very interesting, and the customers are struggling to properly set up and understand cybersecurity. We also work in a different continents. We work in Africa, in US markets, Europe, obviously. So I'm going to just briefly go through the cybersecurity challenges of this fintech industry. And this is how we see it. What we see also from our experience, next generation malware, this is how we call it. It's an obvious problem. Consumerization of malware and also cybercrime is making this very interesting challenge for everyone, especially with the ransomware evolution, supply chain risk, this kind of stuff. And speaking of supply chain risk, we all hear the news, what's going on. We see a lot of issues with that specific topic. We see that now the attacks are much more complicated in terms of vectors and in terms of how these guys actually get into the environment. It's not like it used to be before, just straight, attacking specific infrastructure. Now it's very much more complicated, multi-stage attacks, using various supply chain elements inside. Complexity and chaos in the cloud, because fintech is heavily in the cloud. And this is an obvious problem that has to be dealt with. Also, of course, Kubernetes and container security is also a big issue with that. Lack of resources, obvious problem, especially for smaller fintech companies. They are struggling with resources, they're struggling with expertise, but they want to rush and deliver their products in the market very fast, very efficiently. So obviously they need to focus on that, not on cybersecurity. Dev security, obvious problem, because we see this problem. I see a lot of guys speaking about software development security. But what we believe is that this still needs human touch. This still needs human analysis, because automated tools, we work with one of the biggest companies in the market for application security analysis and application security testing. That's far from perfect. It still needs human intelligence behind that. Employee security behavior is always an obvious problem for everyone. It's not only for fintech, it's everywhere in the world. Staffing expertise as well, and compliance overload, obviously. We're going to see some more and more compliance stuff going on. So what we are doing in that field, as solutions, cybersecurity assessment, we try to cover different angles for the fintech industry, cybersecurity assessment, virtual CISO, and managed extended detection response. It's very interesting, by the way, how this specific technology is evolving through time. Now we see more and more XDR solutions accompanied with proper services. This is what we do. Regarding the application security assessment services, or not only application security assessment services, obviously application security testing, API security testing. We also do Kubernetes security testing, container security analysis, and I haven't mentioned this here, but also blockchain, especially private blockchain security analysis, which is something very interesting, and secure smart contract code review as well. Web application pen testing, obviously, SaaS, DAST, obvious things, static application security testing, dynamic application security testing. PCI scans for vulnerabilities mostly, and also for pen testing, mobile application penetration tests, as we discussed, and a classic network infrastructure application test. Of course, we cannot live without it. Regarding virtual CISO, that's a very interesting topic for me. I've been in the industry for more than 18 years as a CISO, and I fully understand that this is a big problem for most of the companies. They cannot find these people. Doesn't exist anyway. We see in the industry lack of 3.5 million qualified people in cybersecurity. Especially in this role, it's really a tough challenge to properly handle that. So risk management, obviously, security strategy and transformation. We mean by that to develop proper business-enabled security strategy for the fintech industry sector, because we see that most of the time, as we see also here, security starts from bottom to and go up to the management. It should be the opposite way around. Digital transformation security advisory, because a lot of companies are rushing to new technologies. We see these nebulous terms like artificial intelligence, machine learning, blockchain stuff, without proper understanding of the complexity and security behind that. Security project management obviously needs also to be part of that. So how to manage properly all this, stuff that we want to do in the company. Security, privacy, and compliance, obvious problem that needs to be dealt with. And cloud security advisory. I personally specialize in this field as well as blockchain security. And finally, the third major part of our solutions, XDR, extended detection response. This is a relatively new term, a new technology. It's far away from being mainstream. I think, according to Gartner, it's just starting. So we're going to see that maturing in 5 to 10 years. But we do have our own solution for that, where we do provide the services on the top of that. Digital risk protection. This is a very interesting topic for a lot of companies. So all the digital assets exposed into the internet needs to be properly protected. This kind of overlaps with threat intelligence here and there, but it's far much more different than that. This is also related to brand reputation, brand exposure, digital exposure, analysis, stuff like that. Autonomous vulnerability remediation. This is very interesting evolution of vulnerability management programs. Virtual patching, stuff like that. So you don't need to rely on humans that much, rather than you just switch to this kind of approach. Cyber forensics, threat hunting, obviously, and threat intelligence as well. And some of the benefits, of course, working with us, as I said, we sell the most valuable product, the brain, and all the stuff that goes in there with our team. So yeah, thank you. That was all. Thanks. Appreciate it for staying here.
Thanks, Boris. Great, and thank you for all the presenters for their interesting presentations. I know a lot of our in-person delegates rushed to lunch, but for everyone that's joining us virtual today, it's a great opportunity to visit our sponsors and exhibitors. They're straight into the Umbrella platform, and also use that next hour to catch them on the networking app and connect with them. Also, if you have any questions about the presentations today, whether you join in person or virtually, do reach out to all the presenters on the Umbrella app, keep that discussion going, and then I'll see you in an hour.